Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Barnhart. I'm the Director of Community Economic Development for the town. This is the public informational meeting regarding planned pedestrian and bicycle improvements to a portion of the Post Road and the Grasmere neighborhood, as well as Grasmere Avenue. That portion of Post Road from the Bridgeport City line to Shoreham Village Drive. With me tonight are Bill Hurley, from the town's engineering department, our engineering manager, Paul DeStefano, and Eric Fisher from SLR Consultants, who will provide a short presentation. As I mentioned, we are recording tonight's meeting so that we have a record of comments, as well as we'll be able to post the presentation to the town's website for those who are not able to join us this evening. I'd ask for folks to remain muted if you can during the presentation, which will be about 15-20 minutes, I believe. And then if you have some questions, I'd ask you enter your name in the chat, and I then can call on you after the presentation. At this time, I'd like to again introduce Bill Hurley for a few comments to introduce the SLR team. Bill.
Thank you, Mark. I just want to welcome everyone. These meetings are important to get the word out, and anybody that is unable to attend the meeting, friends or neighbors, you can certainly let them know. We're going to record this, and if they have any questions, as Mark said before, if it's they can talk to Mark or myself regarding any questions or concerns, and you can make the comments after. I mean, we're going to have, for official comment period, I think maybe a week or two after the meeting where you can make them, but you can really make them anytime. We're the town, we're not leaving anywhere. And if you have certainly any concerns or anything, we can try to incorporate them or at least investigate them for you. Speaking of where we are right now, we're at what we call like preliminary engineering or preliminary design, which is about 30%. Design. So there is still some time for somebody, if they don't like a design feature or want us to consider one, it's not too late. That's why we have the meeting when we do. What caused this project to start was about a few years ago, the town, a couple of people from the Bike and Ped Committee, there was police representatives, Mark was there. We had some Board of Ed people, and some of the neighborhood people and town officials, RTM members, and they attended in the state DOT road safety audit, and those concerns were brought up and were really the seeds for this for the town getting a grant and getting this project underway. Just before COVID hit, the town had met with the Shoreham Village Drive and Grasmere neighborhood to discuss these safety concerns and issues. And since then, the town has applied and received for a commitment to fund using lots of funds from the state. So, so far, things are moving along. And I know it takes time, and I appreciate everyone being patient. But we're moving along fine, and hopefully the design, and I'm sure SLR, our consulting engineers, will elaborate on a schedule. But if all goes well, maybe late summer or fall, we could get some construction. If not, it would be in the spring, but I'll let them describe it more in detail. And matter of fact, why don't I just hand it off to Paul now? Thank
you. Paul DeStefano from SLR here. I am the project manager for this project. Eric Fisher will introduce himself in a second. He is the project engineer. We're really excited to be a part of this one. This is kind of a big step for this area here. We're really focusing in on safety improvements, pedestrian safety improvements, the introduction of a bike lane through here, really making it pedestrian friendly, and of course safer too. That's motorists, pedestrians, even the businesses, providing some additional access, making it a little easier to maneuver through here. Like I said, it's a really exciting project to be a part of, and we're excited to partner with the town to make this happen. And, you know, that being said, I think, Bill, you're probably on the right timeline there as far as construction goes. You know, this will have to go through a review by the state, just given that we're working in a state road. Of course, that tends to take some time sometimes. So, you know, fingers crossed, we could possibly see shovels in the ground in the summer. Yeah, so anyway, brief introduction for myself. I'm going to hand it over to Eric, who he's been really in the nuts and bolts of this one. You know, he knows this project very well, and he's going to go through a little bit of detail, you know, from really the west end to the east end, south to north on Grasmere, just to kind of walk you guys through and give you a general feel for the improvements that we're proposing. So Eric, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Yeah, so hello, everybody. My name is Eric Fisher, and I'm the transportation engineer working on this project. And, you know, I'll get started here and start discussing, you know, in finer detail what we're working on here. So starting, and just zoom in a little bit here. So our project limit begins down on the southeast at the intersection of Post Road and Kings Highway. That's where our new lane configuration will begin. And as we have plotted out here, the lane configuration would consist of a 5-foot bike lane with a 2-foot shoulder dividing the bike lane from the 11-foot travel lanes. Then the new feature here would be is the 13-foot center left turn lane, followed by another 11-foot travel lane, the shoulder and the bike lane on the other side. And starting here at in between the offshoot from Post Road and between Shoreham Village Drive, to help with pedestrian safety and mobility, we'd be proposing this crosswalk here with a refuge island down the center. The refuge island would be for any pedestrians who may be slower moving, who need a little bit extra time. They're able to have a safe place in between curbing to, you know, keep themselves safe from any traveling vehicles on the road. The intersection here would also have what are called rectangular rapid flashing beacons. These beacons would be when the pedestrian hits the push button, you know, the rectangular rapid flashing beacon would start to flash to better alert motorists that there is a pedestrian in the crosswalk. Then moving down Post Road here to the north side of the road, we'd be including parking spaces. These parking spaces go down the length of Post Road from this point, and I believe we have 22 proposed in total, so additional access to, again, the shops and the local restaurants in the area. So then continuing down Post Road here, let me just get to move down a little bit further. So then come Shoreham Terrace, that's where the bike lane would start to merge back into a shared use lane. And we'll see down at the bottom of the sheet in a second where that merges in better. So that's where the bike lane begins on Post Road, and then where it would be the bike lane would be ending down here. And if we go back to the beginning and shift down here, so this is where in between Shoreham Terrace and Riverside Drive, that merge fully happens. The bicycles, you know, the cyclists would then be, you know, in the lane with the vehicles for this area here, and then we'd have these designated shared use lanes. The center left turn lane here would then become, you know, the 2 designated left turn lanes at this joint intersection, and then the remaining 2 parking over here. Past the Post Road Grasmere Avenue, our pavement markings would begin to tie back into the existing markings that are out there today with the you know, 2 lanes of travel in each direction, and our work would end at the bridge that goes over Ash Creek. I did need to mention, for along with the connectivity and pedestrian safety for this project, the sidewalks along Post Road would be 5 feet wide and would be included with updating any ramps in the area that need to be ADA compliant. So overall, you know, a much safer, wider sidewalk for all to be able to use. So going on to page 2 here, we would turn on from Post Road to Grasmere Avenue. See back at the beginning here. So turning on to Grasmere Avenue, since this is a neighborhood street, we didn't want to impact parking with the design. So what we'd have done here is proposed 7-foot parking lanes that are striped off with 10-foot travel lanes, and then these bump outs at the corner of the intersections. Now, these bump outs specifically are only extend 25 feet from the side street, which are currently today designated by the do not parking signs. So as said before, wouldn't be impacting the current parking conditions. Now, going down the rest of Grasmere Avenue, we continue with the 5-foot sidewalks, the parking lanes, the travel lanes as needed. Then come the intersection of Kings Highway and Grasmere Avenue, we would have another crosswalk implemented here for safer crossing across Grasmere. Then from Grasmere onto Ardmore Street, and similar to Grasmere, we didn't want to impact any on-street parking. So the current layout is proposed to have no impact to where the current edge of pavement is. We would just be fixing the curbing, the sidewalk, and just restriping the road, with then another bump out at the edge of the road down here, and then another proposed crosswalk to have that painted and nice and safely marked out for any pedestrians. Now, I mean, that's really the extent of the overall design. It's fairly straightforward, just the sidewalk and then the reworking of the new travel lanes marked out on Post Road. But I believe that would cover the extent of the design. If there's any questions or anything at this time that Paul or I could answer, we'd be happy to jump into it.
If folks have, thank you very much, Eric and Paul, appreciate that. I do see somebody enter in the chat. So Michael Kraus has a question. Can you unmute yourself, Michael, and ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for calling on me. I had a question about the flow of traffic on the 2 southbound lanes on 130 that ultimately merge into one lane immediately after the stoplight there. I was just sort of wondering if there was any concern at rush hour times that traffic, the fact that it's going to be basically facing 2 lanes of traffic coming at it, because the people in the suicide lane are either going to be taking that left or continuing straight. So you'll effectively have the 2 lanes going into one lane right across from Riverside. And you have a potential where you could get traffic backing up through the intersection during the busy times and making it a nightmare for people taking the left onto Riverside or the left onto Grasmere. I've seen that sort of thing happen a lot. So I was just curious to know how those 2 lanes are ultimately going to flow into one lane at that particular location on the road as compared to further down.
Let's see here. Well, the ultimate goal would be is to ensure that no one, is merging in from the left turn lane to just go straight ahead, or that people are able to actually make that crossing there. We would have to look at the traffic signal patterns in this area and to do a proper analysis to ensure that the traffic signals are timed correctly for people to get through the intersection in a safe manner, without backing up the traffic, and ensuring that a certain level of service is met. What we could do to help that process is have these lanes to the Post Road marked out earlier, showing that it would be a left turn lane coming up, so people would know to keep to the outer lane in this case. And
Eric, just to add to that too,
Yeah,
there is
Paul.
going to be signage. There's going to be signage here that we're not seeing as well. So they're going to be able to obviously see what the lanes are going to do. You know, I'd have to imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this problem exists today, I believe. You know, during rush hour traffic, I think, like Eric said, the goal is to get people informed of this new layout with signage, appropriate signage, and get people into the dedicated left turn lanes, or get ready to do that. And then anybody turning from Grasmere or Post going through would essentially stay in the outer lanes. If you do have a significant amount of people taking a left-hand turn, I think what we also have to understand is that this is what occurs today. The length of the queue, how many people can get stored in there, it's essentially the same. We're just changing the lane configuration after the intersection. So, I mean, I hope that answers the question. I'm not too sure. You know, like Eric said, there is a possibility we could look at signal timings, which may help during rush hour. But I'm not too sure if, you know, any project or anything we did down here would just totally solve that problem. You know, it's probably an issue that will continue to happen, just like, you know, a lot of other busy areas during rush hour.
I think there's a question next from Henri Radshaw with regard to trees and maybe decorative lamp features. Would you like to ask your question directly?
Oh, hi. Yes. And there's a lot of plantings now, trees in that area. I'm wondering if they're going to keep them or if they're going to add more, change them, prune them. And the other day I was driving through Black Rock and their lamp lights are so pretty. And it kind of, when we got to like over the bridge, it's like, okay, the vibe is gone. So I was wondering if we're going to, we have some lamp lights on one side of the Post Road. And I was wondering if we're going to spruce those up, maybe add a few more, especially in front of the strip malls on the way to continue.
See,
Do we have room for ornamental light features there? Is that part of our project? And trees as well?
Yeah.
Eric, would you like to take that?
yeah, I could take that one. In regards to the trees, we are aware of, I believe, 2 or 3 rather large trees on Grasmere that are currently growing up amongst the utility lines out there. Those trees, we're currently proposing to have them either trimmed or taken down. And I believe in the budget right now, we are looking at, you know, replacing those trees with some new landscape work that, you know, SLR would be taking care of as well. We do have an in-house landscape architecture department that would be helping us with those trees. As for the lighting, I don't believe that was in the initial thought process for it, but Bill, would you want to, or Mark, answer more about the lighting? Or Paul?
I can try to answer that. Basically, what we can do is, again, based on your comment and concern, we can look at it, and sometimes what we do is when we go out to bid with the contract, we'll put it as an add alternate item. If for some reason the prices are a little bit lower in the contract bid, or if somehow we're able to obtain more funding, we have that in the contract that the contractor could do the work, provided we have the funding. If not, the areas that Mark might think of where we can maybe add some lighting, because like you said, there's already some ornamental lighting. I think it replicates what we have downtown. It's not the shiny blue ones that Bridgeport has. They're more of a black and maybe with a white cap or something like that. But we could, if nothing else, if there's new sidewalks being done, put in a conduit so that it makes it a lot easier to do something in the future, especially if we're looking at a particular section. We can always add that in. So that's a good question, and we can try to incorporate. I can't promise we'll put it in, but we can certainly look at it and as I said, put it as a possible add alternate, or you know, put in the conduit so that we could have it for future.
We appreciate that comment. I love the ornamental lights. They do match the downtown. So any opportunity I have to add to those inventory, I would look to do that. So thank you very much for that comment. Jonathan, I have you next, and then Catherine. Jonathan, would you like to unmute yourself and answer your question?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of questions and concerns. I'll start with Grasmere Avenue. I live on Grasmere, and I'm concerned about how many feet you're taking away from the width of the road overall. Because as one who lives there right now, I don't really think you can make that road any narrower and have it be safe. Because you have to remember, we are down the street from Home Depot. So we have a lot of large trucks traveling on Grasmere. So we're not talking about cars all the time. We're talking about trucks a lot of time. And with the dimensions you've made it, I don't think it's gonna work well. So I want to know how much feet you're taking away by adding grass area to each side of the road. That's my first question.
There's a minimum lane width, correct, Eric? So what's the width there?
The
So that
lane
doesn't
width
answer my
here,
question.
the
asking what-
lane width,
I'm asking, what are you taking away, not what is the minimum?
No, I'm asking what the width of the roadway is. So
the width of the roadway in the existing conditions today is 34 feet wide. We are not taking away the current edge of pavement. We're leaving the grass where it currently is today. There's currently a grass strip on Grasmere Avenue, as I'm sure you're aware, sir. But we aren't narrowing the road at all. We are just designating where the parking lanes are where they are today.
So
Okay,
just to clarify, we're not changing the width of the road.
So it's
Okay,
paint.
'cause according to
So you're
your
putting paint
project
down.
plan, you're adding green space, which is grass area.
So just a little more on that too. So the intention here, as part of a pedestrian safety improvement project. I mean, so we all have to remember here, the funding came from the state with that in mind. So, you know, our goal here was to make it safer for pedestrians. So that being said, the pavement width is the same, but we are dedicating on-street parking, and we're making the lanes a specific 10-foot width. And what that does, it's some sort of a traffic calming. So when people see narrower lanes, they tend to drive slower. So in the grand scheme of things, it's really going back to that pedestrian safety issue. We aren't narrowing the road at all. We're adding some bump outs at the corners to designate the on-street parking to make it look nicer.
Okay.
The effect of what the traffic does in, you know, it's with hope that they slow down the way it's configured. So that's kind of the drive behind the project.
Jonathan, you have another question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, my other thing, well, two other things. One, are you aware that there's a bus stop shortly after the circle? And if you make that into one lane, you're going to be blocking traffic. The other thing is, by making the traffic turn into one lane after it reaches Grasmere, two things are going to happen. More traffic is going to funnel onto Grasmere, and you're going to have drivers who are going to be in the left-hand lane, who are going to try to get in front of the people in the right-hand lane, going through that left-hand turn lane. Drivers are extraordinarily aggressive in this state and county commuting. And you are going to see things with people trying to get an advantage. And I think you have to be consciously aware of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, noted. Thank you very much. And I think, you know, also we have to keep in mind too, this does have to go through the state for approval. So, you know, the design is only as good as the state says it is. I mean, if they want their state road like that, essentially they have final say because they own it. We are proposing what we feel is a big safety improvement, understanding that drivers, and believe me, I see it myself daily right now. I don't know if it's an effect from this COVID world we live in, but everybody in general is just so much more aggressive these days. And it's something we've noticed as engineers, and we certainly take into consideration. But, like Bill said from the beginning, we appreciate that feedback. I don't live there. We need to hear it from people that live there, exactly what goes on, so we could take that into consideration when we're finalizing the design. So all the feedback is great. Thank you.
Catherine,
Sorry, this is Bill Hurley. I just wanted to add a couple of things. Where that left turn lane and people going straight, we did have that problem on Black Rock Turnpike. I'll reinvestigate exactly what we had done there because it seems to have solved that problem. The other aspect of if it is a left turn lane, if I recall, the current signal and probably proposed will have a green arrow. And so those people will kind of be forced to take a left-hand turn legally. If they do something illegally, well, then that's where our police may have to get involved. As far as the bus stop or the transit stops, we are working with the Greater Bridgeport Transit, and anything that we do with the bus stop or improvements, we will obviously work with them. Matter of fact, we just had a meeting with them just a couple of days ago. So we'll continue to work with them as well. I just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
And Catherine's been waiting patiently to ask her a question about changes to signal timing. Catherine, would you like to go ahead?
Well, I'm going to also take into account the comments that came before me as well, which is there's a context to this neighborhood that we're encouraging you guys to take into account. As you said, you are familiar, but you don't live in the neighborhood. This neighborhood is a somewhat generally older neighborhood. I haven't seen a preponderance of residential pedestrian. I mean, it's not a really high pedestrian neighborhood, so I don't know who exactly we're supporting. But nonetheless, it's an older neighborhood, and in context, those who've been around for 10 plus years have seen the whole investment of the shopping area around the Whole Foods and the CVS. And so that's become a much more viable, and that's in conjunction with the railroad parking. And so when we talk about the lights, what we have in fairly recent history is several additional lights between here and where Staples is, where the train station is, and the sequence is such that one could go almost from the post office on Commerce and get stuck at 6 lights. And so by the time you've taken that left and onto Grasmere right at the train tracks there, I applaud the calming sense, but the concern is with the 10-foot width and who's driving. And now, so basically the encouragement is to take a look at the traffic patterns that are feeding a greater area, not just at the header or at the footer, but it's a whole greater thing. On the Post Road meeting, Route 130 there, that is one singular stretch where there hasn't been a light for a good amount of time. You've got very aggressive attitudes coming out of that Black Rock area and Bridgeport. And now also only a couple of intersections up, they're proposing a 57 unit residential new complex. So there's going to be a lot more traffic in this area. And I'm encouraging you guys to take all that into context. The timing is terrible. The sequence of the lights feeding into the neighborhood is absolutely terrible and aggressive making.
Bill, do you want to comment on the signal timing at all, or Eric or Paul? Any comments on that?
Oh, I'd certainly say, I believe the signal timing you're talking about is down at the end of Grasmere for this intersection and the adjoining Kings Highway and Grasmere intersection. Is that correct?
Yes, you could. Here, let me close the chat so I can see the visual.
Yeah.
So you've got it kind of behind the pictures of who are speaking. If you can move it more to the center of your screen, that would be really great.
Sorry. Let me
But
see here.
yes, there's a
Oh, yes. No, so I wasn't sure if how far the screen was stretching out there.
yes,
but...
thank you. Thank you for reorienting it. So really my comment isn't asking for a comment. It's just saying, please take it into greater context. I'm hearing that you're doing that. as Jonathan said, the concern is these efforts are actually going to make it very narrow in a very busy and getting more busy strip on Grasmere. There's trucks coming in and out. And
Yeah,
Catherine, this is
Go
Bill
ahead.
Hurley, and one of the things, what you're referring to, all those additional traffic lights, that was from the development or state required for the Metro Center. That was for the maximum build out. And so the town had to install those additional traffic lights. Ironically, the first couple of weeks when they were in operation, the traffic on Grasmere was, like you said, bumper to bumper. It was great, and people were getting upset. And so they found other ways to go around. And surprisingly, the volumes had gone down for Grasmere. Now, I have to admit, I have not done any recent volumes. I have to double check with our consultant to see if they have or not. But we certainly have some historical volume counts that we can compare with. And if they have increased, then either petition the state or investigate potential tweaking of the signals if need be. If we find that they're less, then we'll probably just leave it, or the same, we'll probably just leave them as is. But we can certainly look into that, and I'll just leave it if SLR has any other additional.
Yeah, I would say one other thing too to keep in mind, and I know we're talking about, striping the lanes or whatever, but it occurs today. So with the cars parked on the side of the street as they are today, essentially you already have two 10-foot lanes, just with maybe not a dedicated shoulder stripe, but there are cars parked there that are essentially causing the same feel that is going to be the new condition. It's just going to be striped that way. So we don't want you to think that the lanes are getting more narrow, or
it's
really
paint.
there's going to be a wholesale change. It's paint.
It's
Exactly.
paint. You're putting paint down. Yeah.
Right.
I get
And hopefully fixing sidewalks as well.
Yeah, and yes, and all
keeping
brand new
landscaping.
sidewalks. Yep, you got it.
I believe Karen had a question with regard to the island that's at Grasmere and Post. Can we flip to that section there?
Certainly.
Karen, would you like to ask your question directly? No, down to Post and
The
Grasmere.
intersection.
Yeah.
Oh, down at the intersection, my mistake. Down at this one
There's
here.
a small little island there that.
Oh, yes, this one here.
Yeah. It appears that it's still there. I think
Yeah,
that was
my
your concern, Karen.
I don't know if you can hear me, I unmuted, but it seems to help really direct and define cars and parking. It's very tight at that corner, but it looks like it's still there, and I'm guessing that that's probably a good thing. Just checking.
I think so.
Yes, thank you, Karen. We are intending to keep that island at the intersection of Grasmere and Post.
Good, okay.
Okay. I think, Laura, you did have a question with regard to stores. Well, that you're right in the same area in terms of parking, correct, Laura?
Yes, I did. You seem to have eliminated several parking spaces along Grasmere there. There are still 2 as you go around the corner.
Yeah.
On the Post Road. And I know there's a restaurant right in that corner. I don't know where you would park for that restaurant, because I think the lot to the west of it is only for certain people. I don't know that. So those parking spaces are almost always used that are being eliminated.
We're talking on Post, Laura, or on
Talking
Grasmere?
about on Grasmere. You've widened the sidewalk.
I'm not sure that they're legal parking spaces because they'd be too close to the intersection, but I'll let Eric and Paul. I mean, I'm sure people do it.
The one has the photo, the line right through the car on the photo.
Yeah, I mean Mark pretty much hit it spot on. there, you couldn't realistically legally get a parking spot or two past where we have striped it on the plan. And like Mark said, people probably do it, but it's illegal.
Okay.
Do it because there's a popular restaurant right
Yeah,
there.
sure is.
Exactly.
And
So
so,
where does one park?
Well, they'll have to park elsewhere in Grasmere.
Yeah, further
Egg.
back on Grasmere, and then there's 2 additional spots on Post Road.
I see the two on
Um,
Post Road, so, and they're usually all full all the way back too, so
Mhm,
that restaurant's gonna have trouble.
right.
I think
But what do you
we'll
point
take a
to,
look to see what we can do there.
Yeah, because right now, if you look at that car in the photo, you can imagine if you're a foot away from the car, it looks like you only got about 5 feet to the yellow line. So that's the reason
Well,
why it
And-
really is.
And this is a
park.
best case scenario, right? Because there's usually at least 1 or 2 cars in front of the showing car with the
That's
stripe
correct.
through it.
But it
Yeah,
also
sure, yeah.
seems like, to me, it seems like the sidewalk is wider than it used to be.
I think it's just shown.
Yeah, it's
color.
not. Yeah, it's not right there. We're actually just resetting the pavers to make them flush. We're keeping those pavers that are there in kind.
Yeah,
It
on
may
Grasmere, it's
look
the
wider
same.
because we're redoing it. Yep.
And then on Post, it's a little bit wider because there was a pseudo pullout that which was really only going to be temporary. So, that's why it looks like that. On Grasmere, I
I'm just
believe. it's the same.
highlighting it, this restaurant may not, because I don't believe, and someone who is there more frequently than I was just there a couple days ago. I don't believe that parking lot just to the west of it is allowable for that restaurant. So, it's going to be very hard to go.
Well, I appreciate that. Obviously, we want to try to provide as much parking for local businesses as we can. I do understand too, the balancing act that Eric and Paul and Bill have to take with the DOT that reviews this. If you show something that doesn't meet minimum requirements, regardless of whether that's an existing condition or not, they're not going to approve a plan that is not legal. So that would be the only comment, but I understand the issue, and I think we'll take a look to see what else we might be able to do here.
And that's what I'm suggesting, to see what else you can
Yeah,
come up with to keep this restaurant from going out of business. It's actually quite good.
oh, yeah.
I've been there.
I agree.
And I have another question about bus stops. Where are
Yes.
bus stops on this route? And how accessible are they for pedestrians from one side of the street to the other?
Paul, Eric, any changes in the existing bus stop layouts?
The current bus stops are going to remain where they are, as they are today.
Could you point out?
On Post Road, the 2 bus stops at this intersection are at the corner, I believe, right in this area here. You can see my cursor on the screen there at the
Slightly
northeast
more east.
corner.
It's a little bit
Yeah,
more
the,
east.
Okay, so
It's on the
that's
other side of that. Yeah, it's right about there. That is a bus traveling from east to west. And then the bus traveling from west to east would be just
Yeah,
almost right across the street from
Yep.
it.
yeah, it's
Right there.
just about the other side at the crosswalk down here. And then the other bus stop, I believe, on Post Road is over by where there wasn't a previous crosswalk, but with the proposed crosswalk here, the bus stop, I believe, is actually right at this spot here. So this one would actually become more accessible with the proposed crosswalk as we have it
Okay.
today, we have it shown here.
That's very good. That was why I was concerned. I want to make sure the crosswalks were accessible. I really love the fact that we're going from 4 lanes to 3 with the turning lane. It will be traffic calming. I think it's great. It narrows the road. It allows room for bike lanes and more parking for most of the area. So I think it's great from other aspects.
I hope you're right. My concern is that this will be very good for pedestrians, hopefully calming the drivers, but at what other expense? Meaning you've talked about the landscape a little bit, not really the post road, but certainly for Grasmere. We enjoy trees. Almost at times it can feel like we're driving up a little bit of a boulevard with overhanging trees. It's almost pretty. And it would be great to consider that we can keep some of those trees. We've got a lot of birds in the neighborhood coming from Ash Creek, and it would be great to see those mature trees stay or be replaced in kind.
Yeah, well,
Thank you, Catherine.
yeah, thank you. We're certainly going to keep that in mind. That's always a big part of what we do. I mean, if we had endless amounts of money, we would put trees, you know, every 50 feet, light poles, you know, keeping in mind this is a grant by the state, so we're kind of limited
Well, can we
as to
contribute
what
to
we
it?
can do.
I mean, can we sponsor trees?
That's certainly a great question. Bill would have to answer that one, or Mark.
I think we're certainly open to that. So I think once we develop a estimate of probable costs with all the things that we'd like to include in this project, then we can see where the funding lines up. And as Bill said, sometimes we put things in as add alternates. You know, if funding allows, we can add them to the scope of work. We may also be able to supplement state grant monies with other funds that we might have at our disposal. So I would like to call on Jill Vagaro, who I think has waited patiently to make a comment or question. Jill?
Oh, thank you, Mark. I think that you touched on, and other people have touched on, much of what I wanted to discuss. I agree that decorative lights would be, the ornamental lights would be great if we could extend those. They do exist at the intersection at Grasmere and Post Road already. And it gives a great look and feel to a business district in this area. And I would love to see it extended down Post to our other businesses as well as down Grasmere if possible. And I'd like to get more information about maybe fundraising for that. I'm concerned about not extending the sidewalk down on Post Road to the Circle Diner. I think that was one of our issues that initiated all of these discussions. Someone had complained to me years ago about not being able to push their baby carriage down the street. And it was a discussion about interconnectedness and how much that would increase commerce if people could just get to places more easily. So I just want to make sure, I know this is working in concert with our other study, the Post Road Circle study. Are those sidewalks going to be covered in the Post Road Circle study? I didn't see it in the mock-ups for the circle bill. Is it?
You're
I just
right.
want to make sure that's no
You're right.
gap.
The projects are intended to integrate, but that could be some time, even with the scope of work being what it is, it could be some time before they're implemented. So this might be something we might want to take a look at sooner rather than later, if that's an issue or concern. Bill?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Jill and Mark. Couple of things. First, it's a perfect transition to the Post Road Circle meeting is actually tomorrow at 6:30. And so if you want to find out more of the Post Road Circle, which might involve, one of the options is a signal. Another is some sort of roundabout. So if you're definitely invited to attend that. And again, if you can't make it, it would be recorded so you can view it at your own leisure. I think the presentation about a half hour or so, and then maybe a half hour or so, with questions and answers. Regarding that, at our last meeting with the Post Road Circle and with MetroCog, one of the things, and Mark alluded to it, that one there is such a bigger project that one's probably a couple of years behind. However, we have the support, I believe, from the state and MetroCog, where we can snap off a piece of that project. In other words, they're going to price it out where if we did, say, from Belmont to, say, the Circle, the actual Circle, and then the Circle to, say, Shoreham Village Drive. Well, that Shoreham Village Drive, to the Circle section, if we can snap that off and apply for grants, it's pretty, it's pretty much straightforward outside of, it might also involve a intersection realignment further on down, but in terms of the sidewalk, it's pretty straightforward, certainly on the one side. And so we're going to be looking at if there is grants or funding available to try to piggyback on this project and try to do them. They might not be concurrent, but one maybe right after the other. And so we're definitely looking into that.
Okay, that would be great. That would really be great if we can look into that. And I just also wanted to echo someone else's concerns about Grasmere being narrow already. Just from experience, while I've been driving down the road and there are parked cars, and it seems like legal spaces. It's not when they're parked around that curve. I have a problem. I go over the double yellow line. I have to make room, and people have to stop on the other lane of traffic. So I just want to make sure that that's not going to continue to be an issue on Grasmere when we make these improvements.
No, I would say for the improvements happening to Grasmere Avenue with the intention of, marking out the lanes as they are, we're, not narrowing Grasmere Avenue at all. The edge of pavement where it is today is where it will be with the proposed layout. And really what's, it's just trying to mark out those lane lines from where the people would be parking so that there is a bit more, I guess for people who are parking to have like the visual understanding, like that's the area for where their car can safely park and not be interfering with the flow of traffic there.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying is that what's pre-existing there right now is already too narrow, and I'm concerned about the alignment for motorists and parked cars. So I just need to see, I'd like to see a closer design of the spacings for the cars, the sidewalks, and the road in that specific area, because I would hate to spend the money on this area and not have both lanes of traffic be able to get through at the same time.
Thank you. I want to make sure we get to a few other folks that have some questions that haven't been called on yet. Jonah had a question with regard to the walk signal and whether or not it's ADA compliant for a family member that is blind. Is there an audio signal notification? Did I get that correct, Jonah? Did you have other questions? Either want to address the question in terms of audio signal for?
Thank you. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, at the crosswalk, specifically the one that would be most beneficial is the new proposed one that's just next to Ardmore, the new crosswalk that would be put in going across Grasmere. That one, I would want to make sure that, there is the crosswalk with the signal that is going to announce like, you can cross and then has the countdown, because I know the one that currently is there going across King's Highway does not have that signal. You have to kind of try and cross with the light, which is complicated because you have people coming over the bridge and making that right. And you have people making the left turn. So the timing of trying to get across there without the cross signal is difficult, but not having an audio one where you can hear it is even more complicated for visually impaired. So I just was checking to see if that was going to have the walk signal there for both of those.
Yeah, great question. I mean, given the fact that right now there is really not a dedicated crossing across Grasmere in this area, the timings of the signals and the signal layout will have to be looked at and reconfigured. And it certainly would, just to comply with, state ADA requirements. Yes, that would certainly be, it will be more than safe for somebody who is blind to cross.
Okay. And then also, I just wanted to add, like, I am 100% like applauding this project. I think it is wonderful. I have 4 properties in the Grasmere area, and I personally am a pedestrian with my family, and we do it because there is so much traffic in the area. So we're trying to cut down on the cars that are parked on the road. And so we're walking to Whole Foods, we're walking to the restaurant up on the corner, we're going getting our coffee up at the, convenience store. So I love that this is being put, on the platform. So thank you so much. I think this is absolutely wonderful.
That's really great feedback. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the drive of the project is people, there may be a lot of traffic now, but really this is to persuade people, I think, to get on foot more at the same time. So that's great. That's great that you're doing that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great that you're doing that. So
the one last thing I would mention is I know that at the end of where Ardmore and Kenwood meet, where the road is actually called Kennard, there is a footpath that is, I kind of feel like the project kind of got offhand. It's not on this map, but there is a footpath that was put in to kind of give pedestrian traffic between this area and to the metro. But it seems like I don't know if any more invigorating could be added to that possible footpath, but I think that would also help in this whole push for increased biking and pedestrian traffic. I think that would really help as well.
yeah, and that could certainly be something accomplished by some maybe wayfinding signage or something like that. And that's something we could talk to the town about.
I wanted to, Leah had a question with regard to speed bumps. Leah? I think Leah had asked the question as to whether or not it was contemplated to put in speed bumps on, trying to find the location here, but I think it was Longview.
Hi, Leah's sitting here next to me. She was just, seems like a lot of cars take a shortcut down Longview to try to avoid some of the traffic and the lights up on the post road. And they drive down Longview way over the speed limit. She was just wondering if maybe like speed bumps or something else might be able to help alleviate that issue.
You gotta go down Grasmere. You were at it before.
Oh, my mistake.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's the first left.
You were right.
Grasmere.
You were right there a minute ago. Just up. Yep. There you go.
Oh, I see. Right, where
Up one more.
Longview goes around.
Well, yeah, one more. You got to go
One more
towards the post.
up.
It's parallel to Plum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one more up.
in
That's
between
right.
Plum and
South.
Post. Yeah,
There you go.
Yes,
There it is.
there it is.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a shortcut from the circle to
I mean, that
the
is
Grasmere area.
that's a local street. That's not part of the project. That could be something that the traffic authority, the local traffic authority, police commission could consider separately, correct, Bill?
Yes, that's
If
correct.
there was a petition.
Right?
I know
Yeah,
I know they don't look at it very kindly, but if there was a neighborhood petition regarding it, maybe they would consider it.
Right now, they did a very detailed, I don't know, I want to say like 80-page study on them. And they have pros and cons for the speed humps, but that doesn't mean that they can't look at other alternatives. And, they can always look at that again, but I just want to, let you know about that. But they could
If they're
look at
interested
that,
in
they could do a
pursuing, would
speed
they
study.
contact you, Bill, if they're interested in this issue?
Yes, they can, or they could contact the police department directly, but if they want to contact me, I'll try to be the liaison between them and help them out. That's certainly possible for that. And certainly they do have a traffic division of the police department, and they could certainly put this on their list to be surveyed or studied for sure.
Yeah, and Bill, I'd like to add to that quick, just being in my position too. We see some speed bumps go in. There are warrants for them, and you have to meet those warrants. I'll be honest, many speed bumps we see go in end up coming out because the residents get annoyed with them driving the streets themselves, plus the noise you get from the cars hitting them all the time. So just food for thought. It's something that it sounds like a good improvement, but a lot of times they end up coming out. Another thing we see a lot is putting up the flashing speed limit signs, which a lot of police departments are doing nowadays, which tend to visually make people slow down. So it's certainly another possibility, but just a little insight, that's all.
Yeah, the radar, the speed radar feedback sign. Yeah, they could and that's again, they have a whole traffic division that they would look at that and do some studies. So certainly, yeah, they can contact me. I'll gladly help them out.
There are a number of comments in the chat, and I will save the chat so we can incorporate that into our minutes from this meeting. But I'm trying to call on folks that haven't had a chance to speak yet. Linda Batchelder, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question or provide comment? Linda, you still there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Okay, there you are.
Good, thank you. I live on Shoreham Village Drive and am often turning left out of Shoreham Village Drive towards Fairfield Center. And twice just this year, I've nearly had a head-on collision, and from people coming out by the auto body and plumbing place. And I see that you've incorporated some help there, but is there any way to reduce some of that paving? Because people treat it like it's a merge. And they're looking back towards the circle. They've actually been looking backwards as they're coming down my lane
That's a
on the
jug
wrong
handle.
side of the road.
There's a crossing there now, or proposed.
Yeah, so it's to the left side of this drawing, just beyond where we're seeing.
Right, it's on the upper corner here.
Oh, okay, up here.
Yes, where there's all that paving, people come out of there and treat it as a merge. And I am really happy about the crosswalk in the brick area. I'm hoping the brick area will be raised. But, I would say I've lived in this spot almost 20 years, and I would say maybe 7 or 8 times I've had to make a maneuver, which would be now into the bike lane, to get out of the way of a car or a vehicle that's heading directly towards me on the wrong side of the road. And I don't know if you've seen that happen, but I just think if we could get people to head more perpendicular to the post road as they enter it and I know the auto body needs parking for big trucks and all, but just a little creative reworking on that road might really.
Bill, is this part of the other, I'm trying.
Mark, I was gonna say the same thing. I think there's at least a minor tweak, and it could be fairly significant about this intersection as part of that project. So if you're able to make it tomorrow, that would be great. If not, you can see the recording. But if we happen to, we could post some sort of update for you on that question for sure.
Yeah, also too, in the interim, that extension of that median island per se is really kind of forcing people coming out of that jug handle to get into that far south lane much faster than they would today. So it's forcing them to take a much harder right out of that side street. I envision people today probably just come, like you said, they probably come in a straight line getting into the lane on Post Road closer to Shoreham Village.
Yes, and there's no longer a stop sign there, I think. There was at one time, but they have no stop sign, they just enter.
And matter of fact, one of the proposals is to make that road one way also, by the way. So that's another thing that the town and the consultants for the other project are considering. So we are trying to get the wheels in motion, and we appreciate these comments, certainly.
I appreciate your work. I really do. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. I think I've lost, so there is some general questions again in terms of timing of this. I know, Bill, at the beginning, you indicated we're at 30% design now. We obviously need to complete design, submit to DOT, and we'll be consulting with DOT throughout this process, but they'll have final review and approval, and then go out to through procurement to get bids for the project. And you expressed the possibility we might be able to start next fall. And so I don't know what the estimated construction cycle might be for a project like this. Would either of you, any of you three gentlemen like to advise?
Sure, I'll happily answer. I think right now, given that there's not a lot of drainage on this project, drainage work, it's really more surface treatments such as sidewalks, pavement markings, the median island. We envision this probably in the 4 to 6 month range. So say if they're starting, like I said, it's still kind of a floating target, but if they're starting late summer, early fall next year, and they do go 4 to 6 months, this could possibly wrap up in the spring of 2023. Because you would need a winter shutdown period, which is from the end of November to the beginning of April. That's what the state essentially requires, is that unless temperatures are good. So that's really general time frame. I would assume 4 to 6 month time frame once they do start construction. So.
There was a question here from Michael regarding the extent of the road safety audit. Was Grasmere Avenue part of that study? I seem to recall it was primarily post roads focused, Bill, but do you have any recollection?
Yeah, no, we included Grasmere. Yep, it's in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I walked Grasmere also. This is Laura.
I've walked it too. I just don't remember exactly whether that was part of that effort or not.
It was, yep.
Thank you. And I think too, there was a question here in terms of the approval process as to whether or not this needs to go before Planning and Zoning Commission. It does not, to my knowledge. This would be going to the state DOT for their approval. And I assume also the local traffic authority, the police commission, would also have an opportunity to weigh in and provide comments. Bill?
I'm sorry, Mark, could you repeat that? It was a little mumbled, sorry.
Who needs to review and approve this? Does planning and zoning need to approve this? I believe
I don't think so.
DOT
no.
and local traffic authority.
Yeah, right, exactly. The local traffic authority usually would throw their support on it. And obviously, like you said, the DOT, MetroCog may have a little bit of say in it. Obviously, for the most part, they support this project. And so, but those would be the main entities to review: the local traffic authority, MetroCog, and the DOT, of course. DOT/OSTA, Office of State Traffic Administration.
Okay, I think I went through most of the. I think I went through the chat. If I missed somebody, please let me know with questions or comments. We did save the chat, so we have your comments recorded. But if you'd also think of things that you'd like to say or didn't say, have the opportunity to provide some additional feedback or questions, feel free to drop us a line. You can certainly send it to my attention or to Bill's. My email is mbbarnhart@fairfieldct.org, and Bill's is the same
William
setup, which is W Hurley, HURLEY @fairfieldct.org. And we'll be happy to incorporate any of your thoughts and comments and feedback as part of the record. Any final comments here this evening from Paul, Eric, or Bill, or any member of the public that I missed somehow?
I'll just say two or three really quick things. One is I saw the height of the meeting, 29 participants. So that's really a tribute, and that would be part of the record. That goes a long way. It shows that the state, again, that we care, the neighborhood cares what's going on here, and that really is a tribute to the neighborhoods here, because I've certainly been to some state meetings where there's two people that show up. So that does go a long way. And if there's ever any little gray areas, sometimes that can be helpful to show that the town and the neighborhood cares. Karen had said the one way to the circle, that was correct. And then the other gentleman, and I had his name, but they moved the chat there on me, so I apologize. Michael. Michael, I'll ask the police for, and because someone else mentioned it too, about the feed radar sign or speed study for Longview and maybe Grasmere as well. It goes a couple of different things or ways. It's helpful because then it would be a before and an after for the project as well. So that's always a good thing. And as I said, separate even from this project, the traffic unit might be able to get involved if they deem there's a problem that's substantiated by their study. So, thank you.
Yeah, and Bill, you took the words out of my mouth. It's pretty amazing what these virtual meetings have kind of given us. The one good thing, I guess, from COVID, we get a lot more participation in these meetings than we used to, which is phenomenal. So thank you, everybody, for the comments. Like I said before, it's really important for us to hear that feedback as engineers, as designers. You guys need to be part of this project too. We can't just throw a new sidewalks in front of your house without you knowing. So we really sincerely appreciate the feedback. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
One last question for Bill, Paul, or Eric. Is there, we're at 30% design. Obviously, we need to advance the design effort, incorporating comments and feedback that we received. Will there be an additional public informational meeting as we get to semi-final or final design before we finalize things? What's the thought there?
Paul, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, we have to check with Bill. I believe we discussed possibly having another one if people really felt so inclined to be a part of it. I would say this at the least, I would think maybe we can make final design plans available for people to view, whether that's at town hall or a link on the website as we get further along. I think that's certainly something that we could make happen.
We certainly got a lot of feedback tonight and a lot of participation. So there's interest and a lot of good comments. So I think, that if we can do that, we should.
Sure.
And I'd just like to say, oh, sorry, Bill.
I was just going to say, SLR has done a great job. Thank you, Eric and Paul, and thank you, Mark. I think you were great. So thank you. Yeah, as far as another meeting, it could be an informal, or like you said, we just post up on the.
Well, maybe we'll actually get a
website.
chance to meet in person. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Well, I appreciate.
Thank
Thank you, Eric and Paul and Bill, for all of your comments and going through the plans. Your presentation this evening, I thought was very informative. Thank you, everyone else who attended this evening and provided great feedback and questions. Again, if you have any additional thoughts that you didn't have a chance to raise tonight, or something comes to you, don't hesitate to reach out to Bill or myself, and we'll be sure to provide that information and feedback to the SLR team. But thank you again for taking time out tonight to participate in tonight's meeting. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of your night. Thank you again.
Thank you,
everybody, for coming in today. Thank you.
Can I ask you what that orange strip
Thank
is?
you.
What
Thank
is
you
the
very
orange
much.
strip just outside of Shore and Village Drive?
I'm sorry, what?
There's an orange strip. What is that? It's on the post road right there.
This
You
is right
pointed
here.
out.
This would be the Refuge Island. This would be a raised brick pavers, with a curbing around it, but that's just there. One, to help direct the traffic out of the post road over here so that it's not as straight across as one person had said tonight, but then also to provide a refuge space for pedestrians who are crossing the road who might be a bit slower, who need an extra little space to stop and continue.
Is there only one lane of traffic going east? Right there where is that, that is
yes.
the only lane?
Yes.
Yes.
Because already there's, I know I've heard neighbors of mine, I live on Shore and Village Drive, complaining that when they go to make that turn into Shore and Village Drive, people are right on their tail and it's very difficult. So all of a sudden you're putting everybody into that one lane.
Well,
That
no,
might
you're
be
going to have a dedicated
very
turn lane.
congested.
Right.
Why are they eliminating the second lane?
Are you talking which way are you heading? You heading east or west? Because there'll be a dedicated turn.
Heading
lane
east,
going west.
that's east toward Bridgeport, right?
Right.
So why would you take that lane away instead of having two lanes going over there in that direction?
So essentially, that's really in order to be able to add the bike lanes, add the on-street parking, do incorporate the traffic calming pedestrian improvements, that's essentially what the town wants to implement. And in addition to approval by the state, because it is a state road.
And
The studies,
I just don't think it's going to keep the traffic moving. And people have to slow down to turn into Shoreham Village Drive. And all of a sudden, that's going to be the only lane. And often, I mean, there's always police cars even parked by the Circle motel there, because the traffic all of a sudden, once people get out of the Rotary, they pick up speed and they're racing down to Bridgeport. And I don't know, it just sounds
Well, the overall intent
very
of
narrow.
this is to make it less as a cut through, a diversion for I-95 and more serve local traffic in the area. And I think that's part of the overall intent with regard to the Post Road Circle Safety Study as well, where it's not going to be perhaps as convenient for motorists to divert from I-95 and race through this area. The idea is to try to make it a little safer for other folks that are in the same neighborhood, whether they're on foot or on bike, but it's not just all about cars at this point.
Mark, if I could just add one thing, they call this concept like a road diet, and typically road diets are proven safety measures for slowing down traffic. Obviously, if you have two lanes, anybody can pass anybody going slow. And so, and the lanes are wider and there's more free flow, they call it sometimes.
Yes.
And so that's going to be higher speeds. This way is going to be slowing them down. When you get out of Shoreham to take a left to go to Fairfield Center, instead of trying to cross 3 or 4 lanes, you only have to cross basically 2 lanes. So that's going to be a big safety improvement. And what else is there? And then, not that I would highly recommend it, but I know it's going to happen. If there's nobody in the bike lane, you still have that 5-foot shoulder. So you can kind of, if there's nobody in the bike lane, you can kind of go over at the very end of as you go into the intersection, and there'll be enough room if someone had to, quote, swing around you or go by you without rear-ending you. So there is still a little bit of room. As we said, we're just designated the lanes and with pavement markings, trying to help traffic flow. And the other thing that I wanted to mention about, even with the speeds, you'll get a little bit more consistent. Like right now, if you did a quick speed study, you might find that the slowest car is doing 20 and the fastest car might be doing 60. Well, with the road diet, you have a tendency to kind of squeeze and get more closer to the average speed. So you might find that if the speed limit's 35, that the range might be, say, 30 to 40 in general. And those are just generalizations, but it is a proven safety factor, and the speeds do typically go down. How much, I don't know. I can't answer that right now, but certainly they usually have a tendency to decrease.
Well,
Yeah,
If that answers your question.
That was a good concluding comment. Paul, did you have something you wanted to add?
real quick. You guys, Mark and Bill hit on it pretty well. I think the other thing here that we have to remember is people that are really interested in speeding, they're going to find another way around this, because they're going to get frustrated coming down here and being behind somebody that's actually going the speed limit. So really, it's going to be a readjustment of the area, essentially. And that's kind of what we're going for. The road diet concept: slow people down, get more average speeds, consistent speeds, and make it safer. So.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys again and again. If there's other thoughts or comments, feel free to drop us a line. Appreciate everyone's attendance this evening, and wish everyone happy holidays and good night for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Well done.